All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is George Shannon. I'm the founder of Black Market Events. Can everybody hear me okay? Fantastic. Welcome to Business 101. I figured this is a good way for us to collaborate, connect, and share information. I know people are different paths in their business world and at different stages in their business world, but I feel like there's some common advice that we can all come together and learn and share with one another and kind of build off of that. And hopefully everybody walks away from the meeting gaining something and having a different connection or maybe a different perspective on how they can be successful in their area of business. Our main guest tonight is LeBrent Speed, solid guy I've met through B3, his company. They have a networking event which takes place a couple times a month. There's a couple different membership levels and subscription levels, but I would definitely and highly recommend it. He's a fellow North High alum, great member in the community, and I just want to welcome him and give him space to share his experience with us. And we're going to be asking some questions. I have some questions. If you have questions on the way, just raise your hand or put something in the chat. Other than that, man, I'd like to let LeBrent introduce himself a little bit, and then we'll get started with the Q&A.
Well, listen, my brother, it's a pleasure to be here. You know how we get down, and I'm excited to have this conversation, especially in Black History Month, and to see how we can support Black businesses and give them some information that not only they can have, but they can use. Because ultimately, information that's not used is worthless. So I want to make sure that people take the information and use the information, and that we can support each other better.
How long have you been in business or been a business owner? Or tell us like the steps of your journey to where you're at today.
You know, I probably got the first business bug when I was a kid, like selling stuff at the malls. That we're over in Roseville, where Hy-Vee and stuff is on some of the old North Siders. Remember, there used to be a mall, and
Oh, the
I used
Terrace Theater.
yeah, it was Terrence Theater, but it was a mall, strip mall there too.
Hmm.
So it was a mall and a strip, and like where the hospital part is, that was a whole mall. And I remember I was like 9 or 10, and I got involved with the church, and they had us selling little trinkets and stuff, and I was like, man, this you can make money doing this. Now I didn't make no money. It was all went to the church I was working for. But I think, watching Lifestyles of Rich and Famous when I was a kid made me think all of them had businesses. So I just thought, man, in order to do things, I got my first briefcase when I was like 10 years old. And so that started me on my track to businesses, So I've probably had, doing car washes. But then as I got older, I started to get into real estate. I bought my first investment property when I was 26 and over north on 11th and Newton, and just kind of had a mortgage business during the height of the mortgage industry. So I had 3 offices nationwide, and so I've had a bunch of different businesses. So I say the bug hit me early, but I've also spent a considerable amount of time in corporate America because a lot of us, you're doing business while you have a full-time job. That's in, your full-time job is investing into your business. And so I did that for years. And about 3 years ago, after I left my last corporate job, which is I enjoyed it. I just I just couldn't do corporate anymore. And so I ventured into, my wife and I had an event space for about 3 years. But I've been coaching, speaking, and doing what I do full time over the last about 5 years, 3.5 years.
What inspired you to launch the Black Business Project, the Better Black Business Project?
One of the things there's a lot of books I read business, but one of the things that really intrigued me, especially growing up here in Minnesota. So I did go to North High, for those who I grew up over North, but most of my education was private schools. All my other education was private schools except for North. And what I learned was, how people in other communities really circulated their money. And unfortunately, we as Black people don't do the same. We like to talk about it, but we actually don't circulate it. There's a really good book I highly recommend. It's called The Black Tax, written by Shawn Rochester. And he talks about he's got some really good data for other authors as well. But a couple of statistics he brings up is that African Americans in this country make up 14% of the population, yet we only have 2% of the businesses, less than 2%. And 98% of our dollars, our money leaves our community and never comes back. And so I used to be in my last corporate job, I was the managing director for BNI, Business Network International, which is the largest networking organization in the world. And I happen to be the first Black managing director in the history of their company. So I managed Minnesota, Wisconsin, North Dakota. And I saw all the money that people were referring to each other. And I noticed that many of them don't look like us. And I thought, man, what if I could create a space where Black folks and others who want to support us can actually start not just sitting down with each other, but actually doing business with each other. And so I created this whole format of networking. I created this whole format of how we can do it. And we did it about a year and started about a year and a half ago, coming on 2 years. And in that time, we've passed well over $2 million in business to each other. And we've connected some corporate, and we probably created another 15 partnerships. People have come in, create a partnership specifically because they've come into the space. And so my vision was to create a space where people do business together. They connect. I often say that I'm a relationship and revenue strategist. I help people create impactful relationships. Then I help them make some life-changing money. And so those are the things I really focus on in businesses: revenue and relationships.
That's awesome, man. Based off your experience as an owner and dealing with a lot of business owners out here, man, what are some of the biggest mistakes you think entrepreneurs make early on in their early stages of their business, like years 1 through 3? Like, what are some of the biggest mistakes that people are making out here?
I would suggest that some of the biggest mistakes I've seen is that there's a scripture. I'm also a minister, and there's a scripture I think is pretty universal. It's like whenever you build a house, you got to first count up the cost. I don't. I think people see the freedom of business, and you well know, people. There's obviously there's some freedom in business, but there's a lot of hustle, a lot of work, a lot of sacrifices that are made, vacations that are lost when you start a business. And I think some people don't really, because a lot of us don't have exposure to entrepreneurs like that. We only see the good parts. We don't see the bad parts. And I don't think enough people are doing enough research in their particular fields. I think it's important for an entrepreneur to be well studied. You need to study the field you're going into at depth. The way that I stay abreast of what I do, I read about 80 to 100 books a year. I'm reading business books, networking books. I'm reading relationship books. I'm reading emotional intelligence, neuroscience, neuroplasticity. Like I'm dealing with what makes human psychology work, what makes people want to connect with people, and the history of Black people. I read books on Black history all the time because I want Black folks to work together. So I just think I deal with a lot of entrepreneurs who just have not studied what they're doing. Like, I don't care if you're cooking chicken, you need to figure out why your chicken does so well. What makes it consistent? What's the secret ingredient for most consistent chicken? Have you practiced it? So I'm a studier, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs are missing that counting the cost part. They just count dollars before counting costs. And you got to count those costs first.
It's awesome, man. Like, how do we go from a slogan of support Black-owned businesses to an actual economic strategy that we are incorporating into investing and circulating our dollars with each other, man? How do we get there?
Okay, so this is a very, I thought about this before because you asked me this question. You showed me this a question. So I don't. I'm trying to figure out how deep to go on this question. So I'm
Hey,
gonna.
man, feel free to open up a can of worms, man, and just air it
Okay,
out.
I don't want to be. I don't want to be offensive to somebody else's platform. Okay, so let me start here. Um, we have to understand again. I don't want to be offensive to anyone, but we have to understand the systems we live in were built so that we don't support each other. So let's start there. We are in a system. You can call it what you want to. I call that system white supremacy. That doesn't dismiss any particular person. It's a system. That system was built that me and you do not work together. It wasn't only built that they don't work with us, but it works well when me and you don't work together. So implicit biases that we talk about that white or non-Black people have against us, we have against each other. We have implicit biases. And so in order to first start working together, we must understand we have implicit biases towards each other that prohibit us. So we have to see these blinders, these glasses that we have on. We have to say, hey, Don't act like we don't have the glasses. Let's look at them. Let's first acknowledge they're there. I don't care how black you are, how smart you are, the systems are set up. So once you realize we have those implicit biases, now you have to not just want to support businesses and say, let me go to Georgia's. You've created an actual ecosystem where people can easily support, right? I
Hmm.
can show up and support. But ultimately, if I as a person don't put that on my calendar and create a system, then I'll never do it. For example, if you want to lose weight, I've lost a lot of weight, a couple of years ago, I lost like 150 pounds, right? I couldn't do it because I just hoped and prayed. I had to go get a system. That system, I was eating 6 small meals a day. I had to watch my calories each meal. I had to exercise. I can't just think I want to lose weight. Our support must come from creating a system. So if someone tells me, oh, I support Black businesses, my first question is, what does that mean to you? Tell me how you do that. And if you're like, I just, once in a while I'll go to Georgia's thing, and once in a while, that's not a system. That's happenstance and just by the whim of your pants. Like most of, if you look at other groups, some of our African brothers and sisters, some Latinos, Asian Americans, Jewish Americans, they have systems set up in which they support each other. So one of the reasons I created B3 is to give people a system to tie into that they can support. And so I don't have to be a system for everybody. Everyone has to find us. If they believe in Black business, it's like someone saying they believe in marriage, but they ain't never married. Maybe they just don't believe in it that much, right? I love marriage, but I don't want to ever be married. Like maybe you don't. And there's nothing wrong with that, but just be integrous. Do what you say you're going to do. Create a system. If you don't know the system, you came on here. If anyone's watching this later, tap in with George, tap in with myself, tap in with some other places, but you cannot say you support Black business and you don't have a system. Because once I ask you your system and you can't tell me, it's like if you work out, I should know what your workout system is. If you was like, one day, some days I just kind of, walk, and that's not a system. And so that's one of the biggest challenge for Black people. 98% of our money leaves our community and never comes back. We're a $3 trillion a year economy. We are the greatest consumers the world has ever known. We support everyone else. But if we were an economy of our own, we'd be the ninth largest country in the world. Yet we have no imports and exports. We have no major grocery store. We have no major finance companies. We have no major mortgage companies, insurance companies. We don't have institutions. So it's difficult to keep money within our community because we have no institutions. So we have to start from the bottom and support vehemently. And because we don't have institutions, all these other larger institutions have the cheapest prices. So there's a tax we have to pay in order to support our own. So we have to just make sure we budget that tax and make sure that we support each other. And so I can go a lot deeper than that. But I would tell you that we have to understand that we have biases. We have to look at those biases, be honest, and then create a system that we can support Black business.
Is the B3 slogan "Build Better Together"? Is that one of your slogans?
Yeah, that is one of my slogans.
Can you speak more on that, man? Like, what does that mean? How do we get there? And what are like some of the foundational pieces for us to even get started? I know I feel like B3 is one of those foundational pieces, but for people who aren't a member of B3 or who are just out here thinking about starting a business, how do we get involved and build better together mind frame?
Well, again, it starts with those understanding that that's not just a slogan, that's how I believe. I think we're better together. As you know, when I met you, I was like, man, some would say, oh, you guys are competing. I don't see that. Like we're supporting one another, right? Even if I literally had another Black market, and then we can have 90 Black markets and it wouldn't be enough. So first we have to understand that we as a community need each other. We're better together. We have 7 values in B3, and one of it's collaboration over competition. We literally are much better. Think about some of the ecosystems in the history of the Black community. From obviously the most famous one is Black Wall Street in Tulsa, but Durham was actually way bigger and stronger than Tulsa. Rosewood in Florida. We have Harlem. There were systems, ecosystems around the world, and the only time they deteriorated was that outside forces, typically white forces, destroyed our ecosystem. One of the tropes around Black people, is watermelon, right? Do you know how the watermelon trope came about, George?
I don't.
Most Black people won't even eat watermelon in public now. Some of y'all raise your hand like, I don't eat watermelon in public because it's a stereotype. Let me tell you what happened. Around the early 1900s, the most successful watermelon farmers in the country were Black. And what they did was the white watermelon farmers were jealous of them. So what they did was they created cartoons that was in Walt Disney started using the big lips and all the other stuff to make Black people ashamed of eating watermelon. It was a trope. From there, Black people started eating watermelon, which hurt the business. And then white people didn't want to buy watermelon from white watermelon farmers. So white farmers end up buying up those watermelon farms from Black folks and took their property because we were agricultural geniuses. We
Dang,
would be able to
man.
grow stuff in the desert. So
Yes.
the very trope, they used a trope to get us out of a business that was booming for us and stopped us from supporting each other. And the trope was so successful over 100 years later, many Black people will not eat watermelon in public because of that trope they created to take wealth from us.
Man. Propaganda.
Yeah.
The
And it
propaganda
still
machine.
works.
It does.
And that's why I eat it in public all the time, whenever I get a chance.
Man, watermelon is delicious, man. Eat
And
it any and everywhere you want to, man. Y'all should be eating
it's
watermelon.
nutritious and
Sure.
delicious. And
Man,
I'm telling you,
100%.
many of us are so self-conscious of it because someone created a trope to get wealth out of our hands. And many times throughout history, they created crises and tropes to get wealth out of our hands. So we would give them, whether it be liquor, whether it be barbecue, whatever you can think of, music, they would just create something to take it from us, and then we would give it to them, sometimes without even choice. Sometimes it would just take it and we had no recourse.
Man. Next question I wanted to ask you, man, based off your experience, man, what are some areas that entrepreneurs should be focused on in 2026 and moving forward, man? What should entrepreneurs be focusing on right now?
So I mean, obviously, I'm sure people could watch this from around the country, but we're in Minnesota, and you understand what's happened here for the last few months and what's continuing to happen. I can say this as gently as I can, but we are in the midst of a very um, adverse situation for Black people. Over the last year, Black women have lost over 500,000 jobs, which is the backbone of our financial security as a community. And so a lot of us are getting into entrepreneurship out of, no options. And we have a federal government that is openly opposed to us, openly against us. And the question becomes, how do we overcome that? If you're an entrepreneur right now, I would suggest, one, let's brace for the fact that we're going to have to put in some major work over the next few years. We're going to have to reevaluate where we invest our time and our money. Our resources are precious right now. One of the things I say, the most precious resource you have is your time. And if I were to look at your calendar and how you spend your time, the question is the time you're spending, is it producing fruit in the area you want to grow? And if you can look at your calendar, you're going to have to be meticulous about your time. So time management, which I actually call mind management, is how you manage your time and your mind, is going to have to be way, way different, because we can't have these casual conversations and casual relationships no more. They're draining us, right? You can't be in spaces just going somewhere and I ask you, oh, you went to 4 events this last month. What did you learn? Who'd you connect with? I don't know, just a good place to be. No, we don't have time for that. Your time is really super precious now. And so I would say you have to be very, very introspective about your time, your energy right now, and your money, because you're going to have to invest in educating yourself. You're going to invest in the infrastructure in your business, because once we get out of this season, which we will, once we get out of this season, it will be, you can't wait to get ready. You got to be ready. You can't I can't wait to get ready. You got to get ready right now in the most adverse situation. One thing I like to encourage people is this, that despite the adverse and white supremacist leadership in government we live under right now, we still, that's why I was always been, been mindful of black folks to be like, if I wish I was back in then, we got hands. See, all that disrespect of our elders is coming back at us. But I will say that many of our people created schools, institutions, churches in the midst of the most adverse situations possible with no resources, no help from anybody.
No
I
internet.
believe that if they're able to do that then, God knows we can do this now.
Hey man, that's the truth right there, man. How can people get involved with the B3 project, man?
Yeah, they can go to my website,
Can you put it in
www.the
the chat?
yeah, I'll put in the chat the B3 project. For those who are not listening or just listening, won't have the chat. You may not get this, but it's the b3project.com. It has our events on there for March, and opportunities for you to connect with other people. One of the things that I do that are a little different than most networking is that our networking is very intentional. I set it up in such a way that you got to come in. Everyone gets a chance to share, but you got 45 seconds, but I give you a framework. I call it the who, what, why. The who, what, why, I really created that. So if you can go anywhere and you can tell people who you are, what you do, who you serve, what you need, and why it matters, you can use that anywhere you go. Because I always tell people when I do coaching, I do a lot of business coaching. So part of it, we have a general membership, and then we have some different coaching programs. I always tell people if you can't tell somebody what you do in 30 seconds, they don't know what you do, and neither do you. Um, Albert Einstein said a mark of a genius is a person who can explain what they do to a 6-year-old, and a 6-year-old can explain to another 6-year-old. If you can't explain what you do to a 6-year-old, and that 6-year-old can explain to someone else, then it doesn't matter. Someone just really pressed me on what do you do? I mean, I speak, I do a bunch of stuff. But I tell people this is what I do. I help people create great relationships and make a lot of money. And that's as simple as it gets. Because those to me are the two most important things in business: relationships and money. If you're not making money in a business, then it's not profitable. And if you don't have great relationships, you can forget it. Because when things get tight, relationships are all that matter.
You ever think about writing a book, man? You see yourself as being an author? You got any books out right now? Or you
Yeah,
thinking
my
about writing a
manager.
book?
Yeah, so my manager Jocelyn Johnson's on me. I got the draft done. It's called the transformation code. It's called the 5 keys to transformation because I've been through a lot of transformations physically, mentally, relationships. As some know, I've been divorced 3 times, and with my wife, who, if you met my wife Cassandra, you're like, man, how did that dude get her? And so I created businesses that are now prospering, and now a nonprofit B3I. B3 created a nonprofit called B3I, which is for youth entrepreneurship. So I've created all these great things. And so people are like, man, how did you do this? So I created, and I have a radio show too. And one of the things I call, what I did was basically just scale how I was able to transform my life, being basically 8 years ago, 350 pounds and going through my third divorce. Like, how did I go from that to this? And so I just really kind of mapped it out, and so that's the book. Hopefully it should be out later this year, working on publishing and all that stuff. But yes, and I'm also thinking about writing a book called Networking While Black, um, because I think there's a dynamic of when we show up for each other, but we also show up in these majority white spaces. How do you navigate those majority white spaces so you can still bring value, be authentically you without code switching as much as possible? And then once you get access, we have a whole conversation about gatekeeping. Like, that's a conversation Black people use all the time. But I often say to people, like, for those who are gatekeeping, first of all, is a real thing that started in slavery. White supremacy created gatekeeping, so it could show that they were doing something, so they could have one person they could say they did it for, so it can basically represent everyone. But the whole point, though, is if you want someone that has access to something, are you showing value to them, or are you just wanting a handout? And one of my values is serving over selling. We serve each other before we sell each other. So you're not serving people, then why should they help you? So
There's a question in the chat. It says, how important is incorporating AI to your business?
I think it's critical to understanding AI, right? But what I would often also say about AI, I know there's a timer on your thing. I don't know.
Man, I just seen that going off, man. We got 10 minutes, y'all. They're gonna kick us out of this Zoom meeting.
Oh,
Go ahead, you can answer that question though.
okay. What I would say AI is critical, but AI only enhances what you already have, right? So AI is awesome. But say if I had AI write a speech for me, it could be great. It helps in terms of helping me write a speech. But if I don't know how to speak it, it doesn't matter. See, AI is the great enhancer. So yes, AI should be incorporated into your systems, into your, I call it the three buckets of business. There's only three buckets of business, whether you're a solopreneur or um, you got a Fortune 500 company. There's your bucket one is your sales and marketing. Bucket two is your product and service. Bucket three is your operations. AI can help with all those. But again, if you don't understand the mechanisms of all those systems, AI can't help you. So yes, AI is critical. Learn AI, get training on it, use it. I talk to mine all day, every day. I have a name. It knows all my systems. It knows everything I do. I'm talking to it like I'm talking to you guys right now. Sometimes I'll have it on while I'm in meetings just to take my notes. But again, I can deliver what I'm talking about. If you can, you can have AI write a menu for you, but if you can't cook the meal, it don't matter. So
Burnt toast.
yeah, it's burnt toast. It's like
A
it can be a great menu. You can have a phenomenal menu, but it can be a horrible food because you
horrible
can't cook.
presentation,
Yeah.
horrible
He's like, that
everything.
menu is amazing. Yeah, but the food is awful.
Man.
So all of us have a product. So the question is, you got to put the work in to have a good product.
Anybody else got any questions before we get up out of here? I know I have, like you talked about health a lot, man. Like how important was getting your health together in terms of you being successful where you're at right now with your business and things that you got going on in your life, man?
I mean, it's critical. Health is wealth. One of my seven values is wellness over work. And many of us as Black folks, we don't take care of ourselves, and then later our bodies break down. Like I hurt my back the other day, right? Working out though. But because I work out, my body's now adjusting and I'm going through it. But ultimately, we don't take care of our bodies. We don't take care of our health. What do we have left to give to the world? So you got to take care of you before you take care of someone else. We often heard is if you're in an airplane, the mask fall, you got to put over yourself first. And many of us have been taught, especially our women, been taught to help someone else. But you can't help other people with what you don't have. And so just like I use the same analogy in relationships. People be talking about relationships and this, the other, and the other. I want somebody to bring me peace. And we're like, they can't bring you what you ain't got. Like if your life ain't peaceful, nobody can bring it to you. So, because if you don't have peace by yourself, you're going to bring their confusion and your confusion together, and there'll be massive confusion. And it's the same thing in your health and your business. You gotta want it for yourself. So,
When's your next B3 meeting or opportunity for folks on here to come check out what you got going on?
next Friday, 9 a.m. At the media office in North Minneapolis on corner of Penn and Plymouth on the fourth floor, beautiful location there. We do a lot of them in the morning. We have the one after that is Tuesday the 10th at 5:30 p.m. That's going to be at Acer over in Brooklyn Center. And so we really have some really good partners who do this with us, but we want to create spaces. But it's a good time to come and connect with other business owners. And again, we're open to Black entrepreneurs and others. I call them authentic allies. I like non-Black people have been in Georgia. Know some of our white members, they get down,
They
they
get
help,
down.
they support, they serious. But I train it. I train them. I'm like you can't like in Minnesota. We actually don't push white folks to do more than performative work. One of the things that I really studied here is Minnesota is a home of more Fortune 500 companies than any place in the world per capita. Yet we have some of the biggest wealth gaps, housing, education, income in the country. And one of the reasons why, because a lot of white people here do a lot of performative work. They do stuff that makes them feel good. They don't do things that actually are good for us. So they want to give us a lot of fish. They don't want to teach nobody how to fish. So one of the things we got to train them on how to support us. But many of us don't have a system in which we can train them. We don't know how to train them. So I'm grateful for my non-black friends. Like my non-black friends are dope. I always feel like mine are better than y'all's because I tell you, mate, they support, they be down for me because I have qualifications for friendships. Like I'm gonna be good to you, but you better be. I don't want no performative stuff. You better be support. And all my friends, they support. Like, how do we get down? What do we put money into? We got one person, B3. She probably gave almost $1 million in contracts, probably close to it. Like, but again, there's a lot of them out there. If people would, tap in. So that's why I would suggest come to one of them next Friday and the one after Tuesday.
And all this information is available on your website, the
Yep, all that's on the website.
b3project.com.
Yep, and you can get in contact with me through there. Depending on and again, whether you use me or George or anyone else, people have to. I've invested tens of thousands of dollars into my own personal development. I just think it's underutilized. People don't want to invest in themselves, but this is another thing. It's a poor investment because if Beyonce come or Dave Chappelle, listen, Dave Chappelle was here. I love Dave Chappelle. I didn't go to Dave Chappelle. Those floor seats was $500. Like I could have spent that, but I was like, no, it's something. That's other things I want to get done right now. So me and my wife, it's $1,000 for me and my wife. I know I'm not here judging people, but don't tell me you'll spend $1,000 on Dave Chappelle and I'll tell you get coaching with me. Oh, I can't afford that, but you can afford Dave. Like Dave came and threw some flowers down and gave us jokes, and I love Dave. He's my favorite comedian of all time. But in the end of the day, he ain't gonna make your pockets better. Like, and then you look at me like, hey man, won't you do this for free? You don't ask Dave to do it for free. How come we make entertainers rich, but those who put work into community? I've made more people rich than Dave. George has too. So people don't want to invest in the people who are actually help people on. But then Dave or Beyonce come, we paying $2,000 for a ticket. You wonder why we broke. That's some foolishness. Like we got to challenge each other. Like don't come to me if you got the latest shoes, all the Jordans, all the stuff, and then it's like, hey man, I can't afford you out. It's like there are people, and George knows this true. There's people that have made over 100 grand in a year in B3, $100,000 just from being a place I created that I put my time, energy, and sweat in. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'll coach you $1,000 a month. $1,000, like, bro, you've made that 20 times over, 30 times over. This is a mentality. It's a poverty mindset because we won't invest in things that make us money, but we'll invest in things that take money. Deficits, not assets. So,
LeBrent, man, I thank you for your time, man. Your knowledge that you shared with us this evening or afternoon. I encourage everybody that's listening and on this call today. This is our first one. I think it went well. I hope you got something from it. I got a minute and 53 seconds left. If anybody got anything to say, you got a business you want to shout out, put it in the chat. Other than that, I mean, I thank y'all for your time. I thank y'all for y'all patience. I thank y'all for being encouraged in your business adventure and your journey. And I hope that the best for you on your business journey. And I hope that we cross paths along your business journey as well.
yeah. Yeah, I was ready to go, man. I was we the timer put us out. I
The
was ready.
timer put us out, man.
Yeah,
I didn't know I got to upgrade to the pro.
you got to upgrade. I got that prime one. That's what I'm saying. Like I don't want to be cut off. Like so, those little things mean a whole lot, man. When you start looking at your infrastructure, your systems, all that stuff just mean. Even you look at my background, like to put my I have a marketing team that put together all my background. So
Hmm.
my logo that's like a scientific code. So that's kind of the mindset around B3. It's like it's an experiment almost. How do we experiment to get black folks and non-black folks to come together? That's kind of the whole concept. So those little things add up, right? So even when I go to a meeting with corporate America, they'll ask me like, man, is there something behind that B3? I love that B3P. It's like, yeah, it's like a scientific code for success. They're like, what? Like you got to have like all these layers into your stuff that really. So I just encourage all of y'all like put the work in, and because I promise you, when you put the work in, it pays off. And I'm grateful to people like George and other folks because when people see your stuff, they'll want to support you. So I appreciate you. Thank you, brother. Before we
I'm gonna
get out,
send this recording to all y'all too, man. So if I got your information, I'm gonna send it out too. So that's it for the day, man. Appreciate y'all showing up, man. Y'all have a wonderful rest of the day, and hopefully be at the next one every last Wednesday of the month.
all right, talk to y'all soon.
All right.